Maarten Derksen from the DOEN Foundation from the Netherlands. And let me just say that this has really been, these are the speakers that are going to speak to the report, and you'll have a chance to download the report. We'll post it at the end of this session. But it's been a true collaborative effort. You'll see the logos and names of many, many collaborators that have contributed cases and part of the writing effort. A big shout out to Jenna Stoney and John Wilson for being the lead writers in this, and to the Alliance for Food Sovereignty in Africa for informing all of this work that is taking place with their own enterprise development and entrepreneurial program. And really the genesis for this is we were asking, the Agroecology Fund, as I mentioned, is a grant-making organization, and we've been supporting movements around the world. Of course, small businesses, emerging agroecological enterprises are within their networks. And we asked ourselves, well, what if we could combine the creativity and power of social movements with the creativity and power of entrepreneurism? How would that work? So this really was an effort to provide support to networks and organizations within the agroecology movement that are also working to support the agroecology enterprises that are emerging within their midst. And these enterprises are looking for market share, they're looking to work in supply chains, but importantly, they're also looking to reshape the food economy, along agroecological principles, along agroecological lines. So let's hear a little bit from these speakers. I'm going to turn back the microphone over to Jenna Stoney, who will guide us and then further pass it on to the speakers. Thank you so much, Jen.
Thanks, Daniel. Let me get my slides up. Welcome, everyone. Let's see. I am in slide presentation mode. Can somebody give me a thumbs up if you can see it? Thank you, Daniel. Okay. So welcome, everyone. We're truly excited today to share this report and the result of an incredible collaborative effort among the Agroecology Fund's partners and many others that have brought this report to fruition. So today's webinar is 90 minutes, and we're going to divide it up into sort of 3 parts. The first part will be the shortest, which is a report overview by myself about 8 minutes long. And then we'll hear from 3 of the grassroots farmers organizations that received business planning grants, one from Uganda, one from Senegal, and one from Cameroon. And then the third part, we will have a question and answer period with donor feedback that John Wilson, the co-editor and writer of this report, will moderate. So we really look forward to your questions. So let me get into it. Today, we're officially launching Agroecological Entrepreneurship Starts Here, which is the culmination of 15 business planning grants that the Agroecology Fund made. And I'm going to go through on a very high level the report. It's 97 pages, so it's very dense. There's a lot of great material in here. I can't touch everything, but I will give you an orientation. So the overview of the report is divided into 7 sections. The first section is really describing the problem and context setting. The second section, which is really the meat of the report, sections 2 and 3, are the grassroots initiative descriptions. So the business planning grants themselves. There are 6 detailed overview summaries, and then there are 9 summaries. And you'll hear from 3 of the 6 detailed presenters here. Section 4 has findings for organizations and the Agroecology Fund, and Section 5, 6, and 7 are recommendations, conclusion, and some reference materials. And I recommend that you check all of that out. So let's just dive in. I think we're all familiar with the problem. We're working in agroecology, so we know about the hidden annual cost of the industrial food system and the need for an increase in investment to adequately fund agroecology. So what does this look like specifically, and what have we learned through a lot of our work? Well, there's a huge finance gap, and I'm sure you're very familiar with this. The smallholder agroecological farmers, cooperatives, and entrepreneurs are really systematically excluded from finance and policy support that is fueling the industrial agribusiness. We found that most agroecological enterprises need between 10,000 and 250,000 to grow and develop, and that there's few lenders at this stage, and that most lenders are lending at the $1 million mark and up. The second big gap is that there's an investment gap for the concept of agroecology and agroecological principles. And I know you know these principles, but I just like to put them up there. So a blend of both the land, environmental, and food production values alongside the equity, participation, fairness, and social values is very important. And that really sees itself in terms of local resilient food economies, producing food for local consumers. So that is another big gap that investors don't see. So briefly, what's our context? I've been working as the small business and entrepreneurship consultant with the Agroecology Fund for the past 7 years. And the first couple of years, I worked very closely in collaboration with the Alliance for Food Sovereignty in Africa on doing research and report, kind of getting a landscape perspective on were there agroecological entrepreneurs, co-ops, and associations on the continent. And the answer was yes, resoundingly yes. They don't identify themselves as agroecological entrepreneurs, but they're out there. As a result of that, we held several meetings with AFSA. And the other big evidence point was the COVID grants that were made by the Agroecology Fund in 2021 and 2022 really identified what folks needed during COVID and the shutdown were more markets, more places to find inputs, seeds, biofertilizers, and connection to local markets. So these local markets are actually a vital part of local resilient food economy. So the other piece that I don't want to forget is the Agroecology Fund has a strategic commitment to moving more resources towards agroecology, not just grant resources, but investment resources. So this work is a part of that. So I'm just going to get into it, and I'm going to have to go at a little bit higher level here. So the business planning grants process was planned in collaboration with our partners, and the partners identified 3 bottlenecks: finance, market linkages, and value-added infrastructure. We had a grant application process, and we selected 15 of 22 groups based on the community impact and alignment with our goals. And then each partner conducted participatory market research, value chain analysis, community surveys, and capacity mapping work, among other items. So here are the names and the countries of the 15 organizations. They're all across the continent. I can't name them all, but they all did amazing work, and we learned so much from all of them. 9 were country level work, and 2 were multi-country initiatives. So there were 3 areas of focus that ended up happening. There were process and value addition, seed systems, and direct markets. So I won't go into this a lot more, but the detailed examples have quite a bit of information. These case studies are deep and have several pages associated, covering background, goals, context, outcomes, learnings, and next steps. We really tried to give a fulsome perspective of the groups, and they really contributed so much to understanding the impact of these business planning grants. So let me get into the findings in the last couple minutes that I have here. So I think there are really some key things that we found around the important findings for the organizations. And one of them was the power of participatory planning. So this is something that we found is so important for business planning, as when communities and associations are involved in the planning process, business planning process, they learn better what to produce and how to be engaged. Information is a critical bridge to markets. So that includes market survey data that it does not exist, and so much other information about how to find the right kind of equipment for a processing, how to price packaging, and do all of that work. Third, regulatory barriers and certification are absolutely critical pieces of information that farmers and farmer entrepreneurs need to know about. And in addition, there are many barriers that need to be fought, such as unfair seed laws and policies that diminish agroecological entrepreneurs' ability to compete in the marketplace. We also found there's a need for tailored and patient capital. Fifth, business planning grants are a pathway for transformation. So many new opportunities and markets opened up as a result of the business planning grants. And then finally, shifting consumer demand is key to building markets. An Alliance for Food Sovereignty in Africa, through their My Food is African campaign, has done a lot of that work. So what were the findings for the Agroecology Fund? The business plans created multiple opportunities that were unseen or unknown before and enabled the organizations to see forward, and we're excited about those opportunities as well. We note and recognize that donors and investors overlook agroecology as an investment lens, and that is starting to change, and we're very excited about that and to be part of that. We recognize that a lack of knowledge and information undermines action and investment, and that's a very important point with all of this. And participatory methodologies deepen businesses' alignment with agroecology. So that really enables agroecology to be part of the process. And so we really emphasize that. And then finally, continental networks can strengthen local business. So what were the recommendations that came out? There's more on this in the report, but we need to re-envision food and agriculture metrics. It's not just about increasing farmer income, it's about a lot of other things. Two, policy really matters. We need policies that support agroecological entrepreneurship. We need to ensure that we right-size the support so that we meet farmers where they are. We need to create applied learning experiences for farmer organizations, and we need to strengthen networks. So this is my last slide. We encourage you all to read and share the report. We encourage our community to provide business planning grants because they're a key bottleneck for more participation of entrepreneurship, agroecological entrepreneurship. We encourage everyone to engage farmers in participatory business planning. It is a critical gap and need. And then finally, embed agroecological principles in investing. So thank you so much. So I am now, I think, have I stopped share? I think so. Okay. So I am now going to turn it over to our panelists. And I'm so delighted to queue up our first speaker, Nancy Mugimba from the Eastern and Southern Africa Small Scale Farmer Forum in Uganda. Nancy is the national coordinator for ESAFF Uganda with over 15 years of experience in community development and working with small-scale farmers. Through her leadership and engagement with small-scale farmers, civil society, development partners, and policy platforms, Nancy continues to champion inclusive farmer-led approaches that strengthen climate resilience, food sovereignty, and sustainable rural development in Uganda and the wider region. ESAF's work with the business planning grants was truly outstanding, and we're very excited to hear from Nancy today.
Thank you so much. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this call. I'm so happy to share some of the highlights that we experienced during the business planning grant. Thank you so much, Agroecology Fund, for giving us the opportunity to explore something that we'd always wanted to do, to see that, to find out if really agroecology has a business case. So some of the highlights we shall have, I'm just waiting for the presentation.
Who's in charge of slides? There we go. Thank you.
One moment.
So as it is coming, I would also want to say that the business grant is like a gift that has kept on giving to the small-scale farmers. And we are up to today experiencing results from the groups that benefited. That cover picture you can see is a group of farmers in a district of Adjumani. They were receiving an okra grinding machine from the business grant. So I'll go straight up and say that the primary beneficiaries were small-scale farmers running agroecological enterprises, but they were just haphazard, and now they are quite organized. Let's go to the next slide, please. They are organized. We were able to have farmers from districts of Jumani, Kasese, Mayuge, Apache, Gulu, Mubende, Nebi, Amuria, and Masaka. And in total, we reached 12 enterprises that were at different stages of their business development. So we were able to support them to access favorable markets and exposure through different platforms, both online and offline. For example, we took them to the Business Expo just to have an idea what happens, what are the other business people doing that we are not doing. They also went to the Harvest Money Expo. This is an agriculture-related expo where they see the levels of value addition, marketing, branding that is being done by other farmers, from other parts of Uganda, and then also go back and carry the learning to their businesses. Then also the Agricultural Education Show. This is an annual event that is a must attend for everyone in the agriculture sector because it brings the newest innovations, and we wanted them to connect. Can they do agroecology using the newest innovations in agriculture? And then another platform that they were introduced to is the MTN Momo Market. This is a simple tool on our phones where you can actually upload your product and it will be picked if someone orders for it and delivered to the end user. So we also provided some technical support in terms of branding services, packaging, equipment. We were able to support some 5 enterprises to register with the Uganda Registration Services Bureau, and that means that they are now formalized. But of late, we actually have 7 others that have registered on their own because they saw the success of these other groups. We also supported 2 groups, that is Golimori and St. Maurice, with value addition equipment. I think that is the picture you see at the cover page. And we've done several backstopping trainings and backstopping visits to really see that these businesses don't collapse. For example, we've monitored their progress, what are their challenges. We try to see that they're able to overcome the challenges they are faced in their agroecological businesses. And then we also see that they are now more organized because they've attended several workshops in business management. And then also they are more innovative. And we are seeing that actually there is hope that these agroecological enterprises they present a business case and they are quite profitable. One of the other things I'll tell you is that we have a documentation of the other successes in a book. I think the team from Agroecology Fund has been able to access it, but we keep updating it because the ones that are working are really working well. Next slide, please. And next one. Yeah, so I decided to include some pictures so that we can see. This is a farmer group in their okra garden. They do collective work together, garden work. And then in the middle picture, you can see a member is using the okra grinding machine. And then this product you see at the extreme right is what they are now taking to the market. I can also mention that we have a shop, a small outlet at the Secretariat of ESAFF, where we help to showcase these products so that those who are interested can also order from us. But this group has gone ahead to to markets to South Sudan. And lately they have accessed a loan, a small loan. It's a soft loan of about $2,000 just to help in boosting their business. And then they also participated in a competition where they won 10 tarpaulins and 10 grain storage bags. And according to small farmer businesses, this is real good achievement because it's a sign that they are actually enjoying what they do and they are also enjoying the profits. The next slide, please. So the first picture shows the farmers attending a business workshop. And the middle picture is these were part of the participants of this business workshop. And that group was making briquettes in a crude way. And then we further took them to some exposure meetings, events, and then they came back to improve their product. And currently, this briquette making group is now looking to certify their product so that they can put it on the market and also be able to sell in supermarkets. So they're actually in the process of getting the Q mark. In Uganda, the Q mark is like permission really to sell a product that has been assessed and validated for the market. Then at the extreme right is a group of women who are processing cassava flour. Something special about this cassava flour is that they remove most of the starch. So it's very good for people who are struggling with conditions like diabetes. And at that time, their packaging and management of the cassava during drying was not so good. So in this business event, this business workshop, they were trained on how to handle their product for the end market. And right now they have good product that they have put out on the market that at least is better than what they were producing before. Next slide, please. So this pineapple group was a group of young men in Masaka who were growing pineapples using chemicals. So when we introduced to them ecological organic growing of pineapples, you can see the first slide, they are just gardening, but in the middle slide, it's the harvest. The pineapples organic pineapples turned out to be sweeter and much preferred. So we began to promote them among the different markets that we had. And then they requested to be trained on how to add value because as we all know, pineapples go bad in a very short while. So this last picture, they were attending a training where they learned how to do jam and also how to dry pineapples under very good conditions, and also how to make wine out of pineapples instead of looking for markets, beyond where they live. They can actually change the product. So we have some of their products in our shop at the office, and then they also deal directly with
Thank you, Nancy. If you can just wrap up.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I have just one more slide next.
Okay, quickly.
Yeah. So as you can see, this is a registration certificate in the middle, just a sample, and this is the booklet. Next slide, please. That is a happy client who also happens to be one of a member of our staff who purchased from the shop. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Nancy. Really appreciate what a wonderful presentation. And it's just so exciting to hear that there's 7 more groups that are forming associations. And you've really demonstrated so eloquently how branding, packaging, and equipment can really set farmer associations on the road to success for agroecological entrepreneurship. Really, really appreciate that. What a beautiful example. And I did want to note that the 3 examples are quite different in terms of what they did and how they went about it. So we're going to now move from Uganda to Senegal and hear from Mariama Sonko. And she comes from a farming family and is the mother of 5 children. A peasant herself, she also serves as treasurer of AJAC Association and chairs the Pan-African movement We Are the Solution, which operates in 8 countries across West Africa. Her work focuses on advocating for human and socioeconomic rights of women and young people. And she's going to come and talk to you about this incredible bouillon, sumpak, and really redefining what African spices mean on the continent. Welcome, Mariama.
Merci beaucoup, Jen. Je remercie d'abord l'équipe
Thank you very much, Jen. I wanted to, first of all, thank the team at AEF that allows me to be here today and to be able to tell you about our experience in rural women. Thank you also to all the participants present here today who are attending this webinar, listening to our presentations. And here I wanted to tell you about this natural bouillon, as you have introduced, so sumpak. It is a bouillon that allows us to improve flavor in our meals, but also to contribute to the health of our consumers. Oh, next slide, please. You can see here we've worked on marketing. So we've had AEF support and we've been able to improve the packaging, for example, for these products and work on our marketing. So Sumpak uses local materials, and it's an alternative to industrial bouillons that are heavily used in the preparation of meals. Nowadays, we can show that these bouillons have their limits. They are related to many diseases, so heart diseases, high blood pressure, renal issues. This was confirmed by the health boards, and we were asked, we were asking our consumers to reduce their use of these industrial bouillons. There was a strong reliance on these ultra-processed bouillons, ultra-processed products, and that was at the, instead of using local products. So that was the start. So you start with nere. So this bouillon is made using low-cost beans. And so you've got different stages in the cooking process: pre-cook, peel, wash. Then you ferment these beans, and these are then processed and turned into a powder. Next slide, please. So our product uses local produce, and this allows us to improve flavor of our meals, but also bring more nutrients. And these are beneficial to the human health and improves the situation when it comes to women's income. This project is led by rural women, so their local know-how is very important. Here it's about proving or valuing local know-how and consuming local produce. We also want to, raise the profile of high nutritive value products. And so this bouillon is a key ingredient for these women. It's a new market. Women can produce something local, and this allows us to have income to live, a healthy lifestyle and with income attached to it. There's also preservation of the environment that comes into question. Here you have responsible, rational use of raw materials. Make sure, raw materials are renewed. And AEF has allowed us to support certain groups of women in their agroecological production. We want to have the raw materials and preserve this for the future. We've benefited also when it comes to strengthening the health of consumers. Sumpak has seen a high demand, at least for consumers who are aware this product exists. We're actually struggling to meet demand at the moment. We're creating jobs and it's improving women's income. When it comes to, the basics, the women producing aren't struggling when it comes to selling the product. Everything that goes into the production of bouillon is what is being asked. So, supply and demand here, demand is high. So I think these women are now thinking about how they can keep producing, create, employment, create positions, but also because there's more demand, you need to keep providing the supply. So there's been the creation of small units for processing and commercialization. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the AEF grants, so the business planning grants has allowed us to work on certain administrative steps, especially when it comes to production and commercialization of our product. We'd done this previously, but it would take years, to get the authorization to, make and sell this product. So thanks to AEF support and their grants, the FRA, so the food safety certification, has been given to us in Senegal. We now have the right to produce and sell this product. We also have had help with barcoding, and we also managed to get, trademarking, so protection of the name of Sumpak. So there's a trademark. We needed to protect the name, the brand, and thanks to the support of AEF, we have been able to get this trademark, this protection of the name, the brand Sumpak in Senegal. Next slide, please. Next slide, please.
Okay.
Next slide, please. So even with this grant, we have been able to access more equipment that made, the women's work lighter, easier. Everything was done by hand previously, but thanks to AEF's support, we were able to invest and purchase specific equipment. So we, for example, bought a roasting machine. I can't see the slides anymore. Could someone put the slides back up, please? I'll keep going. I've got slides on my end, but they're not on the screen anymore. So, yes, we have our roasting machine. This allows us to roast the product. We also have a flour mill because it allows us to mill all these different spices, all these different roasted elements. We then have a bagging machine, so to put it in small bags. There's scales, it weighs it. You just need to weigh or select how much you want the machine to put in the pack. And all of this really makes things much easier. It, lightens the workload for these women. We also have the mixer because there's a big quantity and sometimes it takes time to mix everything. So we also invested into a mixer. So with all of this really has made these women's work much easier and it's made production much smoother.
Mariama,
Mariama, you have 1 minute left. Okay, thank you very much. So, the grant has allowed us to improve packaging also. When it comes to packaging, we were able to create a logo, the logo up here on the right. So you see the seeds and the leaves, the different ingredients in a mortar to show, how it's all natural. And if on the next slide, you will see, there you go. No. So our needs now are the construction, the development of a storage area or shop. Once we have a big enough, amount of product, we really need to be able to create this space where we could store. Apologies, I cannot hear the speaker anymore.
Thank you, Mariama. Are you still there? Okay, I want to thank Mariama for her presentation. It sounds like we've lost her audio and we're at time anyhow. So we're going to move to our next speaker.
C'est le réseau. C'est le réseau.
Okay, Mariama, please finish up.
D'accord.
Thank you very much. Last slide. Okay. So I was saying that what we need now is to have a shop, a storage area. We also need to develop vegetable gardens, ways to dry the beans, the shrimp, the fish, the vegetables. We need to strengthen our use of equipment and strengthen communication on the Sumpak bouillon, and to have, communication campaigns, awareness raising, and maybe also culinary competitions based on Sumpak to boost creativity. Thank you very much. Apologies for my connection issues. I'm joining from Burkina Faso. We're on a mission. We're doing some monitoring work here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mariama. Wonderful presentation. So exciting to see all of the progress that you've made with Sumpak, really around the production and commercialization. Super, super impressive. And also, congratulations on getting your food safety certification, your barcoding and trademark protection. It's just super exciting to see this natural product that's created by Senegalese rural women really coming into the fore here. So we're going to move to our last speaker, Rodrigue Kouang from Cameroon. He's with the Service d'appui aux initiatives locales de développement. Rodrigue holds a degree in international relations and has 10 years of experience working with NGOs with a particular focus on vulnerable communities in their entrepreneurial initiatives. He's in charge of SALD's Agroecology program and the coordinator for technical secretariat for the production of agroecology in Cameroon. He's an incredible innovator around looking at the very, very big picture of substituting African flowers for imported wheat. So I'm super excited to introduce Rodrigue and have him share his experience with you today.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you very much for introducing me, and I'm very happy to be here. I will make my presentation in French, even though the PPT is in English. Maybe it will help other colleagues to follow better. So, donc, je suis Kouang Rodrigue.
So, I'm Rodrigue Kouang, and we benefited from the business planning grant when it comes to agroecology. Our work was about strengthening community-based enterprises through incorporating local flour, and here we were specifically working on cassava and sweet potato flours into bread and pastry making. Apologies, I've lost the speaker. I cannot hear him anymore. So we have faced specific difficulties. Cameroon imports a lot of wheat. Conflict between Ukraine and Russia has had an impact on supply. Cameroon supplies
B, au niveau de la
itself,
Russie
at
en
least when it comes to
majorité.
wheat,
Et
with
donc, la
Russia.
difficulté s'est posée
And
parce que
so we
on
have
n'avait plus
faced
accès à suffisamment de
difficulties.
blé
We no
pour fabriquer du
longer
pain et les
had
passions, et
access to
notamment
enough
les prix
wheat for
de ces
bread
denrées-là ont beaucoup
production. The
augmenté.
prices
Donc,
soared.
mais globalement, avant ça, il y avait un travail qui avait déjà été fait avec
But
une
previously, we had
coalition
already started work
d'acteurs
with a
dans le cadre de la
coalition, different
souveraineté alimentaire au Cameroun,
stakeholders
avec une
in the
campagne
food
sur
industry.
zéro importation de produits
Around a campaign for
au niveau du
zero
Cameroun.
importation
Et
of
l'idée,
products
c'était
for
que,
Cameroon when it came to bread
à travers
making.
une étude, nous sommes
And
rendus
the
compte que
idea was
si
to
l'État du
see,
Cameroun prenait une décision
you
d'incorporation de
know,
farine locale
what the
à
situation was
hauteur de
like,
20%
what
dans
could
la production
Cameroon
de bread et
do when it
pâtisserie,
came
ça ferait
to
des économies
flour,
de l'ordre
and how
d'11
this would
milliards
impact
de francs CFA,
bread
ce
and
qui est
pastry
vraiment,
making.
vraiment important.
So
Et
we've
ça
narrowed it
pourrait
just to
aussi
a
contribuer à
reduction by
développer
20% and
l'économie
focusing on
locale
local
et à
flours,
créer
which would
plus
also then
d'emplois.
feed into
Donc,
local economy,
avec
create
cette
more jobs.
motivation-là,
So
avec
with this
un ensemble
motivation in
d'acteurs,
mind,
déjà
with
en
different
2010, une étude avait
stakeholders,
été
we
menée
started
déjà
in
pour
2010, I
identifier
think, a
les
study.
différentes
We had
farines qui peuvent
tried
être
to
utilisées
identify
dans
different
la
flours that
production du
could be
pain et des
used in the
pâtisseries
production of bread
au
and
niveau du Cameroun.
pastries
Et
in
donc,
Cameroon.
c'est ce qui nous a
And so
motivés
this
et
is what
avec
motivated us.
l'appui de
And with the
Agroecology
support
Fund, nous avons
of
donc
the
développé
Agroecology Fund,
ce
we
projet-ci
developed this
avec pour
project.
objectif,
The
l'objectif de ce projet, c'était
aim
vraiment
of this
de renforcer les
project
différents
was to
acteurs
strengthen the
qui
different
travaillent dans la
stakeholders
production du pain à
who
base
are
de
already
farine locale
working on
pour
uh,
faciliter un
these
peu, pour
projects
réduire
related
déjà
to
les importations de blé et
production of
puis
bread using
développer
local
l'économie
flours
au niveau
and
local au
develop a
Cameroun.
further, a
Donc,
stronger local
next
economy.
please.
Next slide, please.
Prochaine slide.
Next slide, please.
Prochaine.
Next one again.
Donc, avec le soutien, OK, thank you.
So,
Avec le soutien de
with
l'Agroecology Fund, nous
the
avons pu
Agroecology
mener un
Fund's
certain nombre d'actions.
support, we were able
Nous avons
to
d'abord fait une
put in place
cartographie
different
des acteurs
actions.
parce
So
qu'il
we
était question
first
d'identifier tous les
mapped
acteurs
the key
qui se
players
retrouvaient dans
in
la
the
chaîne de
production chain
production
for
du pain
bread and
ou de
pastries
pâtisserie à base de farine
made
locale.
from local
Donc, nous
flours
avons
in
identifié
Cameroon.
tous les acteurs en termes de producteurs de farine
It was
locale,
producers,
c'est-à-dire ceux qui transforment les tubercules
those who, for
que ce soit
example,
la patate douce ou bien
transform,
le manioc en
process
farine locale, mais également les artisans boulangers qui
cassava or
produisent le
sweet
pain et les pâtisseries à
potato
base de farine locale.
tubers
Donc, nous
into
avons fait une
flour.
cartographie de ces différents acteurs.
So
À
we
ces différents
mapped
acteurs,
these
nous avons
different key
associé d'autres
players.
qui sont également
Then
importants pour la
we
filière.
also focused
C'était
on
non seulement
other
les acteurs de la
players,
normalisation de la norme,
um,
l'Agence pour la
those
compétitivité du
around
Cameroun, qui sort des
streamlining
certifications
quality of
pour les
produce,
farines
certifications
qui
around
sont utilisées
flours
dans la production du pain.
that are used
Et
in
aussi, nous
Cameroon.
avons pensé à associer
We
également les
also
acteurs de la
tried to
microfinance pour
look into
justement
microfinancial
faciliter un peu ou alors
actors
explorer les possibilités de
to
facilitation
see
d'accès
what
au
the different
financement pour
options were
les
when it came to
différents
facilitating access to
acteurs qui sont
microfinancing
impliqués dans
for the
la
different
chaîne.
key
Et donc,
stakeholders.
c'est comme ça que nous avons donc essayé de
And
mettre
this is
ensemble ces
how
différents acteurs. Nous avons
we
essayé de
try to
créer
put these
un
different key
cadre de
players in
collaboration entre ces
contact,
différents
creates
acteurs
a
pour qu'ils puissent se parler,
framework
pour
for
qu'ils puissent
collaboration
identifier
so that there were
les différents besoins
communications, discussions,
et effectivement les besoins
understanding
des forces
what
et même des
everyone's
faiblesses des
needs
différents
were.
acteurs ont été identifiés.
We tried to identify
Ces baisses-là
strengths
sont
and
généralement d'ordre
weaknesses of the
technique en
producers of
termes de
local
qualité de
bread making
production, en termes de
flour,
qualité de farine qui est
bakers
produite,
who
en
use
termes même
the local
de
flour, and
recettes
so on.
pour la production du pain
We also tried
et
to
d'autres
produce
pâtisseries,
better
mais ce sont
recipes.
également des difficultés ou alors des faiblesses au niveau,
We faced different
on va dire, financier,
issues,
parce que c'est une activité qui demande beaucoup de ressources pour les équipements. Et
a
donc,
lot of resources
nous
are
avons
needed
donc,
for
à
the
travers ces
equipment
éléments-là,
needed.
rassemblé
And
tous ces acteurs-là et
so
nous avons
we tried to
développé
really
un plan
gather all the
stratégique
different key
pour voir comment
stakeholders to
soutenir les
develop a
entrepreneurs,
strategic
les
plan to be
artisans
able to
boulangers
support
qui utilisent
local
les farines locales dans la
entrepreneurs,
production du pain.
artisan
Et
bakers who
ce plan
use local
stratégique-là
flours in the
donc
production
décline un
of
certain
their
nombre
bread and
d'actions déjà que nous
pastries.
avons identifiées en termes de
Through
renforcement
this
pour que la
whole
filière
work, we
soit
then
véritablement
identified different
efficace.
actions
Next,
to,
please.
make this
Prochaine slide.
future-proof. Next slide, please.
Donc, à côté de cela, aujourd'hui, nous
On top
avons
of
encore
this,
pu
we have
bénéficier d'un
ongoing
autre
work. So we are
financement,
currently
notre appui financier
benefiting from
du
another
Fonds
grant
agroécologique, qui nous
from
a permis donc
AEF.
de mettre en
And
œuvre
this has
les actions
allowed
qui ont
us
été
to
élaborées dans le
implement
cadre du
the
plan
actions
stratégique qui avait été
outlined in
élaboré
the
avec
strategic plan
une
that
veille
was
participative
developed as
avec tous
part of
les
the
acteurs.
business
Et
planning
donc
grant.
aujourd'hui, nous travaillons sur
And
plusieurs points.
so
Nous
we are
travaillons
working on
notamment
different
à
aspects.
encore faire une nouvelle
We are
évaluation
still
des besoins
running
des
a new
différents acteurs,
evaluation of the
surtout
different
des
needs
artisans
for the different
boulangers
stakeholders,
au niveau
especially
national. Pour
artisan
le moment, nous
bakers
travaillons avec
at the
une coalition
national
d'artisans
level.
boulangers
We're working with 20 bakers roughly at the moment. We're doing capacity building, and we're also trying to think together how to access different types of financing, microfinancing, and so on.
Qu'au-delà des aspects
So we're trying to go beyond financial and material support and include legal recognition. So work on different legal aspects. We worked with different legal authorities, the administration, to identify a specific process, all the different steps that need to be completed for small and medium enterprises. We also have tried to develop networks between small-scale flour suppliers and the local bakers who are using these local flours in their production of bread and pastries. We also thought it would be important to highlight work at a local level. So we've tried to raise the profile of the local bakers who use locally sourced flours through various events.
Les artisans boulangers qui incorporent les farines locales et dans la production du pain de pâtisserie, que ce soit vu. Donc, nous avons organisé
we really wanted to, make it visible, be it, for example, sampling events, trade events. We have them participate. We've seen very positive results, positive feedback. We were able to meet also the Minister of Labor and Social Protection. He suggested we expand the project to other areas. At the moment, the project is more central. We're working on the central region because that's where there's the capital of Cameroon. There are a few more businesses, more consumers, but there was a suggestion by the minister or discussion at least with the minister about a possible extension of this project to more rural communities. Next slide, please. And to conclude, we've identified some key lessons, two specifically that I wanted to highlight here. Systemic reliance on imports has had a negative impact on the development of local economies. This reliance increases dependency. And as I was saying earlier, we saw with the conflicts at the international level, or even during the COVID era, very few products were circulating. So for us, it's very important to develop a local economy, product that could be produced and consumed locally. And for this, I think we need to go beyond entrepreneurship, but also focus on policy reforms. We need advocacy to have decisions made, legal decisions, legal reforms, to make sure that at least 20% of local flours need to be used in bread and pastry making. The other key lesson is that we really need to involve all the different stakeholders who are part of the production chain for bread and pastries so that we can identify their different needs to then be able to help improve the sector and explore potential solutions. So that's what we did with AEF, and with their support, we really were able to bring in all the different stakeholders, and it gave us a better idea of the situation and the way forward. And so I'm going to conclude here by saying thank you to the Agroecology Fund. Thank you for your support. Thank you for allowing us to present today. And I'm going to give the floor back to you, Jen.
Thank you so much, Rodrigue. It's such a remarkable story about how you're tackling a national issue of wheat dependence and how it really came to the fore during the COVID, the pandemic, and how really replacing imports is a key part of resilient local food economies. And so excited to hear that the government of Cameroon is interested in expanding your work to other regions. That's just fantastic news. And thank you so much for the amazing collaboration that you've had with so many value chain actors on this very important work of substituting local flours in the baked goods sector. So now we are shifting to the last part of our discussion. We have about 25 minutes. We're going to have some funder reflections and remarks from Maarten Derksen from the DOEN Foundation in the Netherlands. He's been an incredible ally to the Agroecology Fund, but to transformative economies and regenerative economies in general, and has been working in East Africa on these issues for a while now. And I invite him to come and speak. But before we do so, I just want to give a round of applause to all of the 15 business planning grant recipients. Just congratulations for your incredible work. And it's where we find hope. I just want to note also that they collaborated and met with each other over the 18 months that we did the business planning grants and really learned from one another, and recognizing that they were not alone in doing this work, and really innovating and originating local business products in their local economies is such an important part of this work. So solidarity and exchange is such a key part. Let me turn it over to Maarten. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen, and hello all. It's nice to be on this webinar, and I feel privileged that I was in the position to already read the report and to be asked to join this panel. And one comment, I must say, I'm not jealous on the person who had to make the management summary. The report is so diverse, wealthy in actors, activities, and in finance. So congratulations to that. I will share some reflections as a funder on the findings and on the business planning grants. I think my main takeaway is there's so much entrepreneurship that sits within these initiatives. And it's not just enterprises, it's also as a cooperative, as farmers, in processing, social enterprises, but also the NGOs that participated. And I think entrepreneurship is a big driver for change. And the report reflects on this. So I'm also happy with all the work that Agroecology Fund and EFSA are doing to promote more entrepreneurship in agroecology. What I found most interesting to read is the business planning grants. They can make a difference in a context where there's limited or less access to knowledge and training, where there's less alignment of capital. And I think for this, there's not just one approach. And the business planning grants, they reflect this, that there are many different approaches, as there is a diversity in what is needed, both financial and in technical assistance, and a diversity in context. And we, as a funder, should also understand that. And I think more increasingly funders start to understand that, but it's not yet enough. And I think as a funder, this report can help you on considering what role you would want to take and what stands out for you. And the advice would be, please do not take the driver's seat. The driver's seat is reserved for the entrepreneur. And I think we should trust them in knowing their context and to make the right decisions. So a lot more trust-based funding. Second thing is the business planning grants are not a standalone approach. It was nice to read about a lot of the funding that preceded the business planning grants, but also to see what came out of it. And I love to read about the funding facility that came out of one of the initiatives that became more like a revolving facility, providing small loans to farmers. And I think you should see it as a whole. It's not just one activity that is initiated. And important to me is the importance of the enabling conditions. Often as a funder, we think if we support the enterprise or the entrepreneur, it will all be fine and change will come. Well, that's not the case. Everybody acts in a wider ecosystem. And I think without also looking at changing the wider ecosystem, whether it's business knowledge, access to markets, or the infrastructure in public policies, legalities, but also the physical infrastructure, you need to look at enabling conditions. And I think if you look wider on a global level, we see that as well. And we see a lot of things, exciting things happening. For example, the Pendo Fund, who have done a lot of work on systemic investing. How do you invest not just in the entrepreneurs, not just in high-level activities or advocacy, but how do you actually put your money into all different aspects of the system? I loved a lot that there were 15 initiatives, but of course we need a lot more initiatives. So how can we replicate? And I know that a lot of funders look at it from a scaling phase. Let's go for the unicorn. They will change the world. But I think where we are in right now, and I think that's also a crucial part of agroecology, it is about a lot more replication. And I think this report and these initiatives show that it can be done. And everybody strives for the same, but depending on context, depending on activity, the approach can be different. I have two more things and then I can wrap up. One question is for the group. I fully understand the participatory approach, that it is crucial at the different levels, and that the process can be more important than the final plan that comes out. But how do you balance between participation, endless conversations, and to start walking and to bring things into practice? And I don't have an answer to that, but I look forward to maybe the initiatives or also the Agroecology Fund, how to best balance this. And the second question was on there were also some nice suggestions for funders, what they should consider in thinking about a strategy. But I think in the lessons that were given, it would be nice also to understand a little bit on what went wrong. What were the mistakes that have been made? And from these failures, what were the failures that led you to adjust the approach? I think that these are some of my reflections. And I think everybody should read the report. And it helps us also in making our own strategy in how to best finance systems change. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Maarten, for those really thoughtful remarks. I think you hit the nail on the head on so many issues, and I really appreciate your two questions. I think they're fantastic, a fantastic jumping off point for our conversation that will be hosted by John Wilson, who is my co-writer and editor and has been involved in this process from the very beginning and is also a very actively engaged the Alliance for Food Sovereignty in Africa. So turning it over to you, John.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jen. And it's been so nice sitting here listening to all the presentations. When Mariama was presenting, it took me back to a meeting that we had in AFSA in 2019, at which Mariama was present. And we were just beginning the citizens group at that point. We're getting it really going. It was the first meeting of one of AFSA's key working groups, which I'm a part of. And we were looking, what do we want to do within the citizens group? And we were using the word citizen rather than consumer. And Mariama described this product that they were making and experimenting with and trying out then, and talking about how, and it inspired all of us. And we realized then that we really needed to have a strand within the citizens group of AFSA around agroecological entrepreneurship. And that began, and then Million and I and Daniel started talking and discussing, and then a lot of things have happened since then. And in the meanwhile, Nous Sommes la Solution have taken this product from one step to another, and then this relatively small grant has really assisted it. So this, I was an editor with Jen and a writer on this report, but I'm also kind of very much part of what's happening, and I think it's really exciting. I think this area of work within agroecology is really gathering momentum. So That's great. Questions are starting to pour in. One revolves around this whole issue of certification and how do you tell that products are agroecological. I think the first question that came in from Alex Borjas, Sustainable Harvest International, what mechanisms or processes are in place to assure consumers that a product is truly agroecological? And there have been some other questions, and even Maarten made some kind of reference to that. So I don't know, Nancy, whether and any of the panelists would like to talk about the whole issue of knowing whether a product's agroecological and how that is affecting your marketing and so on. Nancy, perhaps you could say a little more what ESAFF Uganda is doing around certification. There's another question around is it local certification or is it international? I think specifically directed at you. Nancy, would you like to say one or two things on that?
Yeah, I think one of the things we have to know is that originally, most of the products that the farmers sell are agroecological, really. So one of the other things that we do is to use the PGS, the participatory guarantee system, where the groups monitor each other to see that they are producing without external use, without external chemical herbicides and all those things. So it's really trust-based for now, because the other certifications are quite expensive, but we can say that the products are agroecological. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that, Nancy. Mariama, would you like to say anything about that and how you've approached this question of SUMPAC?
Oui, tout à fait. Moi, j'ai
Yes,
une
indeed.
réponse par rapport à
So
ça parce que
have an
par
answer.
rapport au bouillon que nous
Because
produisons aujourd'hui,
in the
en
case of
tant que
our
promotrice
product,
de la pratique
as
agroécologique,
a
nous veillons
promoter of
sur l'aspect
agroecology, we are
production.
giving
On s'est rendu
importance
compte que nous
to
sommes
the
en train de
production of our product, and we
motiver les
have
gens
realized
dans
that
une
we are
production saine,
currently
nutritionnelle et
motivating
durable.
people
Mais la
towards a
solution,
sustainable
c'est
and
quand
healthy
on
production.
produit des produits sains et que dans
But the question is,
dans la
when we
préparation,
produce
on y
this
introduit
kind of
un produit qui
product
vient tout
and we
déverrouiller.
introduce
C'est
a
ce qui
kind
nous a
of
amené
product
à réfléchir
changes
comment
everything, and that's
mettre
why
une
we started
alternative qui est un
thinking
bouillon
about
naturel basé par des produits
a
naturels. Et ces produits-là,
natural
depuis
bouillon based on
leur
natural
source,
produce,
tout est suivi parce
and
que nous
everything
sommes
is
dans un groupe
tracked
où
because
on fait
we are part of a
la
group
certification participative.
where
C'est
we
pas
use participatory
une personne qui
certification.
doit le faire,
It is not
mais
only one
plusieurs
person who
personnes
needs
qui
to
doivent
do it,
témoigner
but
la
different
fidélité
people need to
du
testify of
produit.
the
Et
of
aujourd'hui,
of the
nous avons
quality of
des
the
blocs maraîchers
product.
que
So
nous-mêmes,
today,
on a. Moi, j'ai une ferme où je fais la production des
I
éléments
have
que je
a
prends pour
farm
mettre
where
dans le bouillon.
where
Pour le
I
moment, il y a
produce
quelque
the
part, si
ingredients that I
je
use for the
l'achète au
bouillon.
marché, je ne suis pas
Because
sûre
if I
que
buy
le
it at the
produit là
market, I'm
soit
not sure
agroécologique.
that the
Donc, je l'achète
product I
avec
use
des
is
producteurs que j'ai confiance et que
agroecological.
je
So
sais qu'ils
I
sont dans
only buy
l'agroécologie
produce
pour
from
que je puisse
farmers
dire que
who I
mon
trust
produit est
and who I know
agroécologique.
work
Donc,
with
il y a d'abord la
agroecological
confiance avec le
principles.
producteur
So it
là-bas
is based on
et avec
trust
tous ceux
with the
qui sont autour
producers
pour
and
d'abord
also those
connaître
who
la
work around
provenance
them
du
in order
produit
to
avant
know
d'être
where the produce
transformé.
come from before we use them.
Juste pour ajouter,
Yes, indeed.
l'autre chose qu'on voudrait, sur
And to add
lequel nous allons
something,
travailler, c'est sur
the
la
other thing we
traçabilité des
worked
prix.
on is
Avec
tracking
les colabas que
produce.
nous sommes en train
And
donc de mettre aussi qui vont
with
accompagner les produits,
system we are using. We want to describe the process, the production process. So all of those elements are showing that our produce are really agroecological. So all of those elements will be material elements which will be able to support this. Thank you.
Rodrigue, did you want to say anything on this one? Maybe not. Around agroecological produce and a distinction, Rodrigue? No, okay, well, we'll move on. Maybe turning to Maarten's question around, maybe you'd like to comment on that. How do you balance the whole question of being participatory, involving people, and getting on and doing things? I mean, we associate business. My daughter's a businesswoman, and she's just forever getting on and doing things. She and driving on. How did you balance those two things? And I think business does need that. It needs quick decisions. It needs people to move on. And if something's too participatory, can it be too participatory? Any comments on that from the three panelists, Nancy, Rodrigue, or Mariama?
Moi, je pense que par rapport à cette
personally,
question,
I believe that
pour nous, la question participative,
on our end, the participatory aspect can be linked to the economical aspect, because today, in order to develop production for our product, we need a supply. So women are trained and supported by our structures, and those producers still face issues. But since we created this unit, we are reassured that what we are producing can be sold and that we have money after a certain amount of time. So we are able to plan production in order to avoid the product being sold out. So it is this participation. Thanks to this participation, we can grow revenue, because maybe at the beginning we could only plan one campaign because we didn't have enough markets. But now we are continuously working on these markets, and this grows revenue, boosts self-confidence, and also grows the revenues of those who work in the units so that they can have better revenue. So this participatory aspect is part of a circular economy which exists at the level of the activities we are developing. And it's something also that consumers are aware of today.
Great, thanks a lot. And I think what's coming through quite strongly on the participatory level is, and this connection between consumers and producers, that in itself is a participatory process. So your point about moving towards a more circular economy, I think is a very good one. But I think it's also a question that, of course, we have to carry with us as we go forward. There's another question around, and I had it as well as one that I was going to ask, is what advice would you give to a young organization or an organization starting out, based on your experience so far, where they're just beginning? What advice would you give from what you've learned so far in setting up an enterprise? Any of you, and from Nancy, seeing other enterprises set up, any advice to a startup that's arisen for you? Nancy, Mariama, Rodrigue?
I think what they is that first of all, the enterprise, like if it's a group, they have to decide what they want to focus on and then document the plan and budget for it, because most of these groups that received some extra assistance already knew what they wanted. Some of them had tried to use manual methods of adding value. So when they said if they had a machine, they would produce more, it was like they were already prepared that they would take that extra step if they were given, let me say, some machines. So I would tell groups to, number one, make a plan together and work together towards it, because participatory methods are good. And I think the fear that that was presented before, that how do you deal with because sometimes participatory methods may delay processes. I think the whole point is not to set off before you agree on the direction as a group. So that is the first point. I feel that you have a plan so that it's also easy for anybody out there to help, who is willing to help. They will know what exactly you want to do and where you're going. Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much for that, Nancy. I think what you're describing is kind of good basic stuff. Have a focus, have a plan, and budget carefully. Agroecological enterprises is similar to other enterprises in many ways. Where it differs is in the agroecological side, but you still have to run a business. Mariama, you've got your hand up. Go ahead.
Oui, tout à fait. Donc, moi, si j'ai un conseil à donner,
So if I have one piece of advice to give to a new business, it would be first to be confident, and also to love the agroecological practice, because this will allow you to check which agroecological produce you can use. But as an entrepreneur, you need to be the first consumer, because others are producing and are not showing the example. They're not consuming those produce. So this doesn't allow other people to trust what you're offering. And then you need also to raise awareness, but be patient, because it's not from a day to another which we will reach the objectives that we set. We need patience and wisdom. So if I have one piece of advice, it's to have faith in what you do, believe in the agroecological practice, show the example, and be patient. Have faith. Thank you.
Great. I will always listen to Mariama's advice. She is quite something in what she's done in all her work. Rodrigue, would you like to jump in on anything? We have a number of questions. Some are, I think, just questions that we can take with us, kind of broad questions, but they kind of illustrate as well where people need support, mentoring, personalized coaching, that kind of thing. And I think what one thing that came through in writing up this report is the important role that networks are playing. And I think Ruth from AFSA is on this call, and she's working very hard on in that program to really build up networks between agroecological enterprises, work with others so that you can learn from them, get support from them, get advice from them. So these growing networks are a key part of, I think, the development of enterprises across the continent. I'm just looking at some of the questions. Yeah, I mean, one question I had was and I think it relates as well to one that Maarten raises, looking back on the exercise, the business planning grant exercise, and knowing what you know now, what would you have done differently specifically for the business planning grant side of things? I don't know if what lessons did you get? Did you learn from doing this business planning grant work? Would anyone like to respond? Either of you, Rodrigue, Mariama, Nancy? What were your main lessons? What would you have done differently, knowing what you know now with the business planning grant? Mariama?
Oui, moi, les enseignements que j'ai tirés à partir de cette subvention,
in terms of lessons learned,
il y a l'allègement des travaux des femmes.
It's facilitating women's work because this bouillon was produced manually. But today, thanks to the equipment that these women received, the production volume grew, the revenue also grew, but also happiness and trust from being able to improving the production. This support allowed us to get quality packaging because this was also missing, and marketing gives us strength for presenting our product, and this was really a weak point for us, packaging. There's also capacity building so that women can hold this project in themselves. So this is what I can say. And also being able to get validation for a product and being able to market and sell it everywhere. So this was also very important, something which I also learned. And also registering the name of our brands. Because of course, it would be a shame if someone registered the name before us. Women would be working for someone else. So these are lessons that I could learn from the process. Thank you.
Great, thanks so much. I think we've lost Rodrigue. I think maybe his connection problem. There's one of the questions is about connection between producers and a more direct connection between producers and consumers. And I would just encourage you to read the report. I think what the Kenya Peasant League's doing with their cooperatives is an example of really pushing the boundaries in terms of that connection. And I agree that that's a really key area of work going forward. Yeah, I mean, I think we're drawing to the end of this session now. Many thanks for your questions. And I'd like to say a very big thank you to our three presenters for the work you and your organizations are doing with other farmers, with other organizations, and also for coming here and presenting and sharing with this audience here. So I think we'll bring this part to an end, and I'm going to hand over to Daniel as we round up this session and finish on the half hour. Daniel, back to you.
Great. Thank you so much, John. And yeah, as we're getting ready to close, I hope we all go out and have a good meal, whether it's a morning meal or an afternoon meal or an evening meal. I know that this made me hungry, and anxious to try more local healthy foods. So, we heard about the okra powder and the bouillon and the cassava flour and the various bread flours. So there's so much all around us that we can eat for our health, our environmental health, and for our local economies to be fortified. I just want to make a quick comment, if I could. There were a number of comments in the chat about accessing resources, and John mentioned that as well. Of course, there's this universe. We just tapped this small universe of enterprises that are going about this innovation, and we were honored at the Agroecology Fund to be able to support some of them on this pathway. And there's many, many thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of enterprises looking to engage in this transformation towards agroecology. And as Jen mentioned in the early slides, it's really not a level playing field. We have all this investment going into industrial agriculture, and we have very little investment going into agroecology. And so how do we begin to make that shift, not only for the Agroecology Fund's resources, which, to be honest, are kind of small, and other funders in the philanthropic spaces and even in the overseas development spaces, but really, how do we move public budgets into investing in agroecology? The kind of subsidies and the kind of soft loans, the kind of training programs and research that industrial agriculture has been able to avail itself of over the years. So we know, again, John mentioned the networks, and we know the power of networks, not only to support these emerging businesses, but to work on the policy angle, which Jen mentioned in her remark, that policy, of course, matters greatly. And so in terms of the accessing resources, I don't, the design of this program was really through networks, and we encourage everybody on this call to look around in your neighborhood. You probably are already part of networks, but once you affiliate with people in your territory and then look for a larger regional connection, national connection, international connection, that's how we're going to gain our power, and that's how we're also going to move policy, and we're going to move financial resources towards investments in your emerging enterprises. And just to say, the Agroecology Fund is really, we're aware of this. We're aware of this big gap between the needs of the entrepreneurs, and again, we've only been able to support a very small number, and what investors have and could potentially channel. And for that reason, we're beginning to do a feasibility study on what would it be like, what would it look like to develop a loan fund that really targeted as beneficiaries, as investees, this universe, this incredible, universe of creativity and innovation that we heard about today. How can we move money in that direction? So stay tuned. I think it's a work that we are doing on the funding sector, but of course it's work that you're all doing in your own countries, trying to move the formal and informal sectors towards more support to agroecology enterprises. So with that, I just want to thank you all for this incredible opportunity to hear about your work. Thank you for these brilliant questions. Thank you again to the authors and co-authors and collaborators in the report. Please do read the report. Perhaps you can flash the download barcode there on the screen so that people can take a picture and get it into their hands. And we look forward to your feedback. Please feel free to chat us about what you learned, what you would like to learn. We're here to help facilitate learning in this important field. So have a good morning, evening, and thank you so much for your participation. Take care.